Welcome back to another Coil Chats, and we have to talk about Justin Baldoni's lawsuit that he filed against Blake Lively. You guys, it is 179 pages long. Like, it is chock full. And if you have watched a few videos on it about what is going on in it, these people have not read that 179 page pleading. It took me forever to get through it. And there is so much information. So whether you're team Blake or whether you're team Justin, you're going to want to sit down and you're going to want to listen to this, because let's talk about it. Let's break down his complaint. So the first thing you have to know is that the people suing are Wayfair Studios, which is Justin Baldoni's family's studio. So it's him and his family. Justin Baldoni, then James Heath, who was a producer on the film. It Ends With Us, and then Melissa Nathan, and then Jennifer Abel, who Nathan and Jennifer Abel were the people that worked for Stephanie Jones and left to go and start their own company and took Wayfair Studios and Justin as a client with them. So they're suing Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, Leslie Sloan, and Vision PR. What is crazy about this is we all know that Blake Lively filed a complaint in California with her alleged complaints, right? She sued Justin and a myriad of other people for sexual harassment and intentional infliction of distress. What we all thought was going to happen is that they were going to file an answer, and then Justin was going to respond to her complaint and file a counter complaint in California. That's what we all expected. But lo and behold, on January 16th, him and all these people filed their complaint in federal court in New York for $400 million, mind you. Like an absurd amount of money. And we'll get to that. The reason why this is a little bit confusing is now we have two separate cases going. That's on top of the lawsuit that Justin filed against the New York Times for $250 million. The reason why this is silly is because the courts are not going to allow two cases going on at the same time, one in California, one in New York, regarding pretty much the same things, which is what Justin and Blake Lively are suing each other, right? This would have been so much easier if they would have just filed an answer and a counter complaint. But for some reason, they wanted to do it in federal court. I think that's because they wanted to ask for more money. And then they wanted to do it in New York. The reason why this is silly is the courts are going to dismiss one of them. And most likely they're going to dismiss maybe Justin's or part of it, because Blake was first in time, first in right in California. She filed it. Listen. One of their biggest complaints was that Blake Lively served Justin with her complaint in the midst of the wildfires last week. They make that big complaint that she is so insensitive. However, this is what I am thinking as a lawyer, because I didn't understand why they filed in New York, but now I'm kind of piecing it together. This lawsuit was already in the works. 179-page pleading with all of these text messages and all the information that they had was not happening within 2 weeks of him finding out about the complaint on Christmas. This was already in the works. They were already going to file this. But lo and behold, Blake filed first. And so instead of waiting to do an answer and a counter complaint and taking, everything that they did, they decided to just file their own lawsuit. I just don't think that it's logical that they was able to completely write this in a week's time, basically, and get it filed. I think that's what's happening. This was already in the works, which, if you think about it legally, it takes a little bit of the credibility down from Justin about his complaints about the way Blake got her information and then was able to file her complaint. They make a big hoopla about that. And I'm like, you were doing the same thing. Now, though, you can make it look like you weren't doing that because here's all your backing. The other thing that's frustrating is they talk a lot. They've added a lot of responses to the complaints in Blake's lawsuit. But because it's not a counter complaint, they're not going line by line and refuting the information. You just get splattered throughout his pleading. You get him talking about, oh, she said this, or she, mentioned this, but not direct to where she says it in her pleading or where the evidence is. And then he has some information. Now, I know a lot of people are like, are you team Blake? Are you team Justin? To be fair, I actually don't care about either of them. Right? They're rich. They're famous. They're not me. But I am a lawyer. And I like to think about this and break it down a little bit to be able to kind of compartmentalize where they're coming from. And at the end of the day, I think both of them suck, but I think they do at different levels. And now that they're doing this just out in the open, in the public, is just a little nutty to me. Like, let's get as much attention as possible, right? I read Blake's complaint. It was very matter of factual. It was on point. Justin's complaint, all 178 pages of it, was a lot of inflammatory language. It's definitely there to strike an emotion in you. Usually, we don't like to put inflammatory language in our pleadings because the courts hate that. They hate when you're like using these derogatory and personally attacking. Like, they don't want that. They want the facts. They want to know what you're pleading. But Justin's attorney was so inflammatory. Let me just use an example. The first page, this is what they say. The following is not a story plaintiffs ever wished to tell. I don't think that's true. In fact, I think they absolutely wanted to tell it, but that's beside the point. Unfortunately, defendant Blake Lively has unequivocally, when they start using those kind of adjectives to like strengthen their point, again, you start losing a little bit of what I want, of the legalese of why are we here? They say has unequivocally left them with no choice, not only to set the record straight in response to Lively's accusations, but also to put the spotlight on the parts of Hollywood that they have dedicated their careers to being the antithesis of. That task was always going to be an uphill battle. They never imagined they would encounter it to this degree. Had Lively chosen to merely write out the self-inflicted press catastrophe she faced in August 24, the public would likely have moved on and never known the truth about her. And they would have never known that she deliberately and systematically robbed plaintiffs Justin Baldoni and Wayfair Studios of their movie. The reason why I had a problem with this and that statement specifically is because Justin got paid and Wayfair Studios got paid no matter what the drama was that went down to have it. In fact, the movie did extremely well. In fact, it met or overexceeded what the studio expected. He got paid. He made money. He got that director's credit. He got that producer credit. Like, when they said that he got robbed of this movie, he got robbed personally, if that makes sense, because money-wise, the movie did great. Then in paragraph 3, they said, but Lively could not tolerate her publicly tainted image for even a moment, and further could not accept that it was entirely of her own making. She needed a scapegoat. It goes out throughout. Lively stole Wayfair's movie. Now, to be clear, Justin Baldoni owns Wayfair, or his family does. So she stole the movie from them. Maybe she got a version of the story, or she got to direct her character. Maybe she was like the worst actress on scene and wanted everything to be her way. I don't think that's a story we've never heard in Hollywood. But at the end of the day, they got their movie and they got their money. One of the things I thought was interesting about this is that if you break this down, I didn't know who Justin Baldoni was before this movie. A lot of people might have, but he wasn't a huge actor and he wasn't a huge producer and he hadn't really ever directed huge movies before. So when they got this movie, I think obviously it was very exciting for him because I think he saw the potential of making a movie that would put him on the map. And it did. It really did. But then again, all of this drama comes in and now he's mad because the second movie is probably not going to get made if Justin doesn't sell, because Blake's not going to do the movie with Justin involved. And I think that's where this all stems from. What you have to look at this though legally. When you go through this 179 pages and this complaint, you have to look at the fact that this movie got made and they hired Blake Lively, very large movie star who's married to one of the biggest movie stars. Because they got Blake Lively, this movie was most likely going to do well for two reasons. People love Colleen Hoover, love her book. She has a huge following. So the readers were actually going to see it. Blake Lively has a lot of loyal fans. People love her. So they're going to go see the movie because of her, not because of Justin. In fact, not really of any of the other actors in this. So you kind of have to look at it like that. But in their pleading, not once do they talk that Blake breached a contract. These celebrities and producers and directors, when they come onto a film, they have attorneys going through their contracts. They are written in the contract. In fact, Justin, in a few of the text messages with Heath, the producer, he even makes a joke, check her contract. They are lengthy contracts. And one of the things that I kept thinking as I was reading through this pleading of them passionately talking about all of the things they were so annoyed by her was not once did they say, she can't do that because it's not in her contract. Not once. And my thought is if you didn't get it in the contract to make sure you're protected, whose fault is that? Like if Blake Lively had the right to rewrite some of her scripts or demand an intimacy coordinator or, all of these things that they're complaining about that she did to take over the film, not one of them was a breach of contract. That would have definitely, I think, strengthened some of their actions. Now, if you want to talk about what they're suing for, let's talk about it. The first thing they're suing for is civil extortion. This is a new one by me. Like extortion is where, you like threaten somebody and say you have to do something or else, right? Usually with the holding of money or some kind of power. I've never civil extortion, but that's what they did. And I don't know how they're going to prove that because they still got money. I don't know if they're going to try to say that because of Blake Lively's and these other people's actions that somehow the movie could have made more money, but the movie did really well. I think it made over like $400 million. They're doing defamation, which they're going to have to prove that they said something that they knew was false to hurt his reputation. They're suing for false light invasion of privacy. So they're suing based on the fact that they were able to get all of those text messages and emails from Stephanie Jones when Melissa Nathan and Jennifer Abel left. Breach of implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. That's a contract term. Like they are suing for intentional interference with contractual relations. So that's not necessarily breach of contract. That's like saying that they interfered with the relationships of the contract. Intentional interference with prospective economic advantage. This is where they're saying that they were damaged because of their actions. Negligent interference with prospective economic advantage. And that's what they're asking for. And then they're asking for a money judgment, award of money judgment, pre and post judgment interest, punitive damage, attorney fees. And they're demanding a jury trial. So this is what I think is going to happen. They're going to have to deal with the fact, are they going to do the case in California? Or are they going to do the case in New York? There might be some causes of actions that should be in New York. But like I said, most of these, especially the one between Justin and Blake, should be all in one. We shouldn't be having one case over here and one case over here. We're probably going to be forced to go to mediation. I think they're going to mediate. If I was them, I would get into closed doors and tell each other to knock it off and figure out what they're going to do with the next movie. And I would then sign non-disclosures and non-disparagement clauses. And then I would walk away. It seems like they're all out for a little bit of blood and they want apologies and they want these movie stars to be humbled and to admit that they're wrong. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen at all. I think Justin was directing this. Blake wanted to be she wanted to be in charge. She wanted to have some say. I think she wanted her input, and I think it just rubbed each other wrong. Whether Justin felt a little emasculated by it or if he was just trying to be the nice guy and she like ran a mile with it. And it's going to be interesting to hear what you guys have in these comments to talk about it. Let me know your questions below. I might do a short or a reel on it. And we are going to just have to see what happens going forward.